Welcome to the BamaInsider.com podcast. It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. My goodness, you okay? You survived? Alabama survived last night, a trip to Starkville, beating Mississippi State 31-24 here on Sunday to break down all the action, talk about the game, talk about the stats, talk about game MVPs, what this win means going forward, a couple scenarios, playoff football related, and we'll start off the program by piping in Nick Saban's opening statements following their victory over Mississippi State. We'll also bring in some of Jalen Hurts' comments after leading that game-winning drive against the Bulldogs last night. But stay with us, relax. I hope you had some time to sleep, some time to internalize the game, because that was a nail-biter. I'm not going to lie. I mean, the atmosphere in Starkville was electric. It was one of the best venues to see a college football game last night, and Alabama got it out a good victory. I think, you could look at this victory in a negative light or a positive light. And I hope you see it as a positive light, because Alabama was punched in the mouth. They had to show resiliency. They were down. They trailed. The game was on the line. It didn't look like they were going to win. There was a lot of fans that we saw, and I was surprised. I mean, remember, this is my first season covering Alabama football, and I was really surprised to go on the message board and see how many people had given up on this team when it was only 14-7 and when it was 14-14 at halftime. Where's your faith in the team, right? Come on, this is Alabama football. They're not just going to blow through teams 40-0 every single game. They're not going to just jump out on opponents, and especially now. I know you got Mercer coming up. You got to take care of Mercer. You got to get healthy. You got to get things clicking again. And no game is an automatic victory. So they're going to go into this Mercer game. You got to put Mercer away, and you cannot think about the big one coming up against Auburn. I know that's circled on everybody's calendar. That game has many different playoff implications, but Mercer's up next. In fact, let's start with Nick Saban talking about this victory following Alabama's 34-24 victory over Mississippi State last night.
You guys can ask questions.
Well, that was a great win for our team. I think it was a great example of overcoming a lot of adversity. We knew this game would be hard. We talked about trying to thrive in hard situations, and certainly had the opportunity to do that. And at the end of the game, excuse me, made a couple great jobs on offense, especially the last drive. Got a couple critical stops on defense when we needed to. So you can't be more proud of the players for the way they competed in the game. So this is a great team win for us. It's a great win for us. I can't tell you how excited and happy I am for the players. They're very excited and happy in the game. Sometimes you win a game like this, and it does a lot for everybody sort of coming together. Certainly had to do that to overcome a lot of adversity out there, especially in the second half and the fourth quarter. We technically, obviously, especially on defense, they had a really good plan. They played slow. They're usually a no-huddle team. They played slow. They tried to shrink the game. They tried to make it a close game, have great time of possession, which they ended up having. But we made a lot of plays on offense, explosive plays, big plays, scored, did what we had to do to score points. Defensively, we didn't do a great job of stopping the run, but you got to give Mississippi State a lot of credit. They had a good plan. They've got a good running game. The quarterback is really a handful to go with the running game. Our players hung in there and did a really good job of competing. And I don't think there's any doubt about the fact that a lot of guys that hadn't played a lot of football to this point probably learned a lot tonight, and we'll have a chance to get better, and we'll certainly work with them to do that. We did have Ross Perschbacher has a high ankle sprain. We'll do an MRI on him in the morning and probably learn as to how long he'll be out. But I don't think there's anybody else. I mean, we got a couple other guys nicked up that Doc will evaluate tomorrow, and we'll kind of go from there.
Okay, open up questions.
Here's a scoring summary for last night's game between Alabama and Mississippi State. Mississippi State struck first in the first quarter. Arius Williams with an 11-yard touchdown run with 3 minutes and 37 seconds remaining in the first quarter to put Mississippi State up 7-0. Alabama struck back with a minute 43 in the first quarter when Jalen Hurts scored off a 1-yard touchdown run. Remember, the big play was that Calvin Ridley 61-yard reception on the play, made it 7-7 going into the second quarter. In the second quarter, Mississippi State took another 14-7 lead. Arius Williams with another 5-yard touchdown run. Alabama would strike back. Josh Jacobs with a 1-yard touchdown run, again set up by a big play between Jalen Hurts and Calvin Ridley. So it was 14-14 at halftime. Andy Papanastis put Alabama up on the board 17-14 in the third quarter with 12:41 left. Mississippi State would fire right back with a Nick Fitzgerald 2-yard touchdown run to give Mississippi State a 21-17 lead. Mississippi State would go up 24-17 when Jace Kreisman hit a 25-yard field goal. Alabama, trailing 24-17 at this point, would make it even off a Damian Harris touchdown run from 14 yards out, which put the game at 24-24 with 9:49 in the fourth quarter. With just 25 seconds remaining in the game, Jalen Hurts hooked up with Devontae Smith for a 26-yard touchdown, which gave Alabama the final lead of the game, 31-24. Now let's talk about the play of Jalen Hurts. Alabama sophomore quarterback, now I believe 23-1 as a starter at Alabama, had a phenomenal night. Ice water in his veins, my goodness. 10 of 19 passing, 241 yards, 1 touchdown. On the ground, he ran the football 19 times for 70 yards and another touchdown, and he led the final scoring drive of the game. And I think a lot of his play in the second half really is what propelled this team to victory. I think he showed poise, leadership, and the ability to make plays. I mean, you remember that 4th and 5 where you thought, maybe Alabama was done, and he reeled off a first down. Alabama faced some big situations last night, and he came up with some monster throws, stepping up in the pocket to hit Calvin Ridley. Ridley had a nice game last night, finishing with 5 receptions for 171 yards. No touchdowns. He was knocked out close to the 1-yard line on 2 of those. He had a great night, and Jalen keeping his eyes downfield, never lost sight. Here's Jalen talking about the final play, the final drive, after leading Alabama downfield for that final score.
Gut check game, you guys made plays when you had to.
I think we did a good job of kind of staying together and kind of being one and kind of staying cool and calm in the situations we were in, and we did enough.
Can you walk us through that last series, touchdown series?
Well, initially I walked onto the field and looked at the scoreboard, see how much time I had left. It was 1:09, and I couldn't help but think of the national championship game. Came short of last year where Deshaun Watson had 1:09 left in the game, and he went down and scored, and we ended up doing the same.
Were you expecting State to bring kind of the all-out blitz on those plays, or did it surprise you at first?
It wasn't a surprise. We knew we knew they would do that when they needed it most, and I think we did a good job of executing when they did it, at that moment.
Calvin said you changed the play in that 3rd down, I think 3rd 15, you caught over the middle.
Yeah, I saw something in the defense, and I told him to run a route that I wanted him to run, and he kind of shook his head no at first. I'm like, baby, trust me, I got you. And that's the trust and togetherness I'm talking about.
I thought Mississippi State did a wonderful job last night game planning to beat Alabama. I mean, first of all, if you ever been to a game at Mississippi State, it's electric. I mean, those cowbells are no joke. I mean, it was loud the entire game. I'm talking deafening loud. I was sitting next to team rider Tony Sakalas. I couldn't hear a word he was saying. I had to keep leaning in. What? Huh? What'd you say? I mean, it's pretty annoying. I mean, it was that loud. So I can only imagine what these players and coaches are feeling down on the field where it's probably even louder. Mississippi State led by Nick Fitzgerald at quarterback. He was an issue. He was a problem. He did a great job in terms of passing the football and rushing the football. I mean, I believe as a quarterback, he's leading the SEC in rushing. Last night, passing-wise, he was 13 of 24 for 158 yards, no touchdowns. And then rushing-wise, he ran the football 21 times for 81 yards. Arius Williams from Mississippi State ran for 98 yards. I mean, that's a lot of yards given up by Alabama last night for a team who's allowing less than 100 yards per game last night. Mississippi State ran for 172 yards off 49 carries. They did a great job game planning for Alabama missing their linebackers across the middle. As you know, Alabama's been hit with the injury bug at the linebacker position. Last week, they lost Shondion Hamilton and Mac Wilson. So guys that had to step up this week were Keith Holcomb and freshman Dylan Moses. And those guys certainly looked vulnerable through the game. and Mississippi State certainly took advantage of that. I mean, there was plenty of times where they were just running right down the middle of the field. I thought Keith Holcomb, as you saw, he had a tough time last night. He's been pretty steady early in the season, but he had a tough time last night. That was certainly evident. And then Dylan Moses at time, at least in my opinion, he just looked green. He's a freshman playing in a big-time game like that. That's a lot of pressure, but Saban did mention this, and I thought this was very, very important. He talked about the amount of freshmen that have played this season at Alabama. To my count, it's 17 freshmen that have played for Alabama, probably tops in the country. Here's Saban talking about freshmen getting playing time here at Alabama. And he also talked about recruiting, how when schools are recruiting against Alabama, they use that to their advantage. They're saying you'll never play at Alabama because Alabama doesn't play freshmen. You won't play until your sophomore, junior season. Well, that's not true, because over here at Alabama, these guys are getting quality reps. And it's not because it's kind of partial, because there's some guys that have been banged up and they're just going through the depth chart. But Alabama is getting freshmen on the field. These guys are getting experience. It was a big wake-up call for guys like Dylan Moses last night, but you saw another true freshman rise up to win the game, and that was Devontae Smith coming up with the game-winning touchdown. Here's Saban talking about freshmen playing at Alabama.
Well, we've probably had more guys injured and missed. We've had more games missed by starters this year than any time we've ever been, that I've ever been coaching, not just at Alabama. So it's difficult. Does it have an effect? I think it does have an effect. And it has a trickle-down effect, but other players are getting opportunities now, and the thing we have to focus on is what do we have to do to help them execute and do and be able to get better. The thing they don't have, they have the ability, they don't have the knowledge and experience. So we have to help them gain that. And then they have to be able to gain the confidence when they get the opportunity to go in the game that they can execute and they can do it. We tried to play a couple young guys today. Sometimes they did right, sometimes not so well. So it's just a work in progress. But we have had guys transfer too, and I think that affects your depth long term. But the fact that we can attract and get, we have probably, I would venture to guess, I'd like for somebody to do a study on this, we may be playing more freshmen than anybody in the country. And the number one thing we fight in recruiting is you can't play. You won't play. Everybody tells them you're going to play when you're a freshman. Well, we play more freshmen than anybody. So our team turns over faster with guys going out for the draft. So we make decisions and play young guys and develop confidence that they can play, and they develop confidence that they can play, and they do a good job.
Now, as you know, Alabama hasn't had many close games on the season. They've been slicing through the competition. But over the last couple of weeks, we saw the competition increase. Last week, they had a very good contest with LSU winning 24-10. This week, defeating Mississippi State 31-24 in a nail-biter. Saban said you need those type of games, and those are going to be the games that prepare you to win even bigger games that are coming up on the schedule. And he talked about the resiliency of the team. But here's Saban talking about this Mississippi State game, what it meant to gut out this victory in Starkville.
Well, I think sometimes that you need hard, if we're going to beat really good teams, if we're going to be able to compete, we got to learn how to compete in close games where every play counts, where you got to play every play for 60 minutes in a game. Every third down is important. Lots of opportunities in critical situations in the game for players to make plays, and we don't always have that when we win 49-0. So it's important that you do that. And we still have big games coming up, really big games. And hopefully we can get our players better, because I do think we need to improve if we're going to be able to finish like we want to.
Now on the college football scoreboard, Auburn took down number 1 Georgia 40-17 in a game where it was all War Eagle. Auburn now 8-2 and still climbing up in the college football playoff rankings. Notre Dame, well, they were a 3-point favorite going in against number 7 Miami. Miami smacked them around yesterday, 41-8. Notre Dame was actually a 3-point favorite, and Miami now 9-0, sitting pretty. Nobody's talking about them, no pressure, and they just keep beating ranked teams. Last week they defeated Virginia Tech. This week Notre Dame, and the U. Watch where the U is going to be in the college football playoff rankings. It's going to be interesting to see if they gain any respect and continue to climb the polls. Clemson now 9-1, defeating Florida State 31-14, and Oklahoma at number 5 defeated number 6 TCU 38-20. Oklahoma is certainly a team to watch, as is Wisconsin, who is now 10-0. 10-0 from the Big Ten. You know, the College Football Playoff Ranking Committee is going to love to try to get one of those Big Ten teams in there, especially if Wisconsin is undefeated. So keep your eye on the Badgers. They defeated number 20 Iowa yesterday, 38-14. Teams outside looking in, USC defeated Colorado 38-24, and Ohio State beating Michigan State 48-3. So here's my college football playoff rankings as of November 12th. Okay, I have Alabama at the number 1 spot, now 10-0, previously number 2. And then I have Miami. I think that victory over Notre Dame was pretty convincing, and they're undefeated as well. I think they deserve some respect, and until they're beaten, I think they have these last 2 weeks shown that they can win the big game, and they're a quality football team. So I have Miami at the number 2 spot. At number 3, I have Clemson. I really don't like that loss against Syracuse, but I know things happen week to week. It was on the road. Clemson's still a very quality football team, so I have them at the number 3 spot. Number 4, I have Oklahoma. I saw that Kirk Herbstreit, who I have, respect for. I mean, he's been around for a long time. He has Oklahoma at the number 1 spot. Not sure I agree with that, but I see where he's coming from. I think Alabama, is trying to still find themselves and still trying to improve after the injuries that they've been dealt with. Didn't look like the clear-cut number 1 last night, but Oklahoma's a team that's certainly catching fire and probably playing some of the best football right now in the country. Need to improve on the defense, obviously, but if you score enough, you're going to win. So Oklahoma now 9-1 after beating 2 ranked opponents back-to-back. Wisconsin, a team nobody wants to give respect to, but they're 10-0, and they defeated a ranked opponent yesterday convincingly, 38-14, beating Iowa. So I have them at the number 5 spot, and they're going to keep climbing the poll. I mean, that's a team that nobody's talking about. Same with Miami. They don't want to give those 2 teams respect, but they keep winning. They're undefeated. It's tough to be undefeated at this point in the season, no matter who you're playing. And then at the number 6 spot, I have Auburn. War Eagles still climbing up the polls, and they still control their own destiny. They're still trying to fight their way to that top 4 spot, and they're playing some excellent football. I mean, they certainly dominated Georgia in all facets of the game, and they're going to be locked and loaded for Alabama come the Iron Bowl. And that game is going to be extremely difficult for Alabama to win, and certainly if Alabama's not healthy, which they're not going to be. You're not going to see any of these linebackers come back for that game against Auburn. And I think Auburn has a better passing attack than Mississippi State. Auburn has a better rushing game. Auburn's better on defense. And I think the atmosphere, while it was amazing in Mississippi State, and those fans certainly brought it, I think just because of the rivalry game and what's going to be at stake between Alabama and Auburn, I think that atmosphere is going to be more than electric. So that's going to be a very tough game for Alabama to go to Auburn on the road over Thanksgiving weekend and beat Auburn. I mean, I think that's a game we're all looking forward to. But this coming week, Alabama will take on Mercer in a game where they'll be heavily favored by. But as you know, there's no automatic W, I should say, week to week. And, there's still plenty of college football left to play throughout the season. But Alabama survives Mississippi State on the road, 31-24. My name is Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. You can catch all our coverage on BamaInsider.com. Follow us on Twitter at BamaInsider. Same on Facebook, Facebook.com/BamaInsider. And all our coverage brought to you by Tony Sakalis on the team front, Andrew Bone on the recruiting front. I wear many different hats. One is leading the podcast here on BamaInsider.com. Hope you have a great rest of your Sunday with your family. Check us out Monday for Nick Saban's press conference, which will be at 12 p.m. Central Time. And also we'll have coverage Tuesday of Alabama's men's basketball as they will take on Lipscomb on Tuesday. That's also the day where the college football playoff rankings come out. So tons of action on BamaInsider.com. Get it all. Get it now. Hit me up if you have questions, Kyle at BamaInsider.com. I'll be one of the hats I wear is customer service too. So happy to make the website experience as best as it can be for you. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon on BamaInsider.com.